thriving marriages don't happen by accident. If you don't explicitly outline what your target is, you're going to drift into whatever your schedule says, whatever culture says, whatever the path of least resistance in your very chaotic, busy life, wherever that takes you. And so that's the point. It's to have this intentional time drawn away to reorient, to make sure your ship is pointed in the trajectory that you want it to go.
Hey, 1 Degree fam. I'm Nathaniel.
And I'm Zan. And this is the 1 Degree Podcast, where we talk about what it looks like to be married as followers of Jesus.
Look, we know that life gets full. Marriage, kids, work, church, sports, the list goes on and on. But we believe that a thriving marriage does not happen by accident.
Each episode will give you real conversations, practical tools, and biblical encouragement to help you connect deeply with your spouse and live on mission together.
So, whether you're folding laundry, driving to work, or maybe even working out, we're glad you're here with us.
Let's dive in. What is up, 1 Degree fam?
What is up, fam? Welcome back to the comfy, cozy, virtual leather couch, where today, from the leather couch, we're going to be talking about a marriage retreat.
We didn't even talk about this beforehand, but I was going to just get right to it too. And you did it for me. I was prepared to go in.
Look at that.
Yeah, we're going to be talking about having a yearly marriage retreat. This is something we talked about years ago on this podcast.
We did.
And I think that it is, just time to revisit it and inspire you to do this, because it is and it's not, I think we purposely didn't do this as a New Year thing so that people didn't get this idea that it had to be a January 1st trip. It can be any time of year. We've done them all times of year, I feel like, in the past. So diving in.
Why?
Let's broadly say what?
No. Let's start with why. And I have a reason why I want to start with why.
All right, I will submit.
Okay.
Just kidding.
No, the reason why I want to start with why. So you might be wondering, okay, why have a regular marriage retreat? And the first thing I want to say is you do not need a regular marriage retreat. And then you might be thinking, okay, Nathaniel, that's really dumb that this whole episode is about having a marriage retreat. And the first thing you say is that you don't need one.
No one's thinking that.
But
we say that about everything on this podcast except for salvation in Jesus.
Yeah, but I think it's important to note that, because in order to have a thriving marriage, you do not need to have time with just you and your spouse where you get away, you travel somewhere, you do things to connect and all of that. Because we've talked about it. You can do that. I want to make this applicable for people that don't have childcare, that don't have the financial resources to go and travel.
Special needs children where it's just not in the cards.
Where it's not in the cards, you can still take these principles and implement them in your life without, you have to get away for a week, just you and your spouse, and you have to travel somewhere where you've never been before in order to really connect or have fun experiences. No, that is not necessary. And I just think about, 150 years ago, there were people with thriving marriages, and in that culture, obviously, it was a lot different. You didn't just to get to
You died of typhus.
No.
We've been watching Little House on the Prairie today.
And so I think that's important to go right off the bat, is that it's not like, I have a very struggling marriage, and all I need in order to fix it is a marriage retreat. And that's not
if your marriage is really struggling, you haven't gotten any tools or anything, and you go on a marriage retreat, you're probably just going to struggle in a place that's more expensive together. You're just going to fight it out there or disconnect there.
Or it goes really well, and then you come back to reality, and a week later, it's like you never had a marriage retreat.
Right. That's something I was actually listening to a podcast earlier today about anger, and it's relevant, I promise, but it was talking about how they were just saying, I didn't become an angry person when I had kids. It drew anger out of me. And they're basically saying, we're all pretty nice people when no one's around us, no pressures are on us, we have no stress. It's the reality of life is what brings out our sin. And so you can remove yourself from the reality of life and maybe sin less against each other in this, but then when you get back into the reality, you're going to fall back into those same patterns if nothing else changed. So there you go. There's your why.
Yeah.
Or maybe there's
No,
your
that's our caveat.
your precursor to your why.
Precursor to the why. And I just want to express that in right up front, that you do not need a marriage retreat in order to have a healthy, thriving marriage. If you're
Mhm.
listening there and, hey, finances are tough or childcare is tough or something is tough, you don't need a trip in order to, have a healthier, thriving marriage. Now, I will say it can be helpful or beneficial. So even if those are limiting factors, continue to listen, because we're going to address those factors of, what if I want to do a marriage retreat, but this is preventing us?
Yeah.
We're
I know
gonna address
childcare,
those.
I would say in the conversations, because like I said, we did do this years ago. So I've had lots of conversations about a marriage retreat since. And I think the thing that comes up the most is like, we live so far from family. I wouldn't leave town.
Mhm.
I wouldn't leave the kids with a babysitter overnight. And I am in the exact same boat. If I
Yeah.
didn't have family childcare, we wouldn't be leaving town overnight by any means.
Yep.
And so I just want, I think that's real.
So we kind of set the table. Now let's go into the why of, why do you have a weekly? Why do you have a weekly
Oh, that
marriage
sounds nice right
retreat?
now.
No, but why do you have a regular marriage retreat? And I think the purpose of it is not just to escape reality. It's not just relaxing. It's
Mhm.
not just to try new things, although those can be cool components of it. I think the purpose of it is to, number one, connect, and then number two, to really establish, like plan out and establish healthy rhythms for the future. And I think you can have a lot of purposes, and we can talk about that, of what it looks like to define your purpose going into the marriage retreat. Because I would say that I can think of 3 off the top of my head marriage retreats that we've done in the last 5 years or
Mhm.
so. And each one kind of had a different main purpose.
That's true.
When we were in North Carolina, we did a
Mhm.
marriage retreat to Georgia,
Yeah.
and Zan's sister came and watched the kids. At that point, it was just Emery and Verity. And the purpose of that marriage retreat is, number one, there was a spiritual component of it. A big component of it, we wanted to do a half day in prayer, but it was very much future oriented. What will the future look like? Oh, Zan's going to grab the charger because that just fell out. Oh, well, you were just getting up, so I wanted to explain, if they're watching, like, wait, why did Zan just get up? Um, it was very future oriented. Hey, we want to establish what our future plans are, what the future looks like, what we're doing. At that point, we were at a kind of
There
a crux of, do we stay in North Carolina
Yeah.
and continue with seminary? Do we pursue college ministry? And at that point, I remember I was applying for a job in Alabama to
True.
be a college pastor. Do we move back near my parents and pursue foster care? And we had consulted with a lot of mentors at that point, but this trip was really a purpose to get on the same page with what the future looked like.
And interestingly, from that trip, 1 Degree was born.
Yeah.
On the way home, we started talking, and we started the
That's how 1
podcast a
Degree
few
was
months
born.
later. Yeah.
Yep, exactly. And so that was really that one. That it was connection, there was a spiritual component, and then future oriented.
Mhm.
Then we did one a couple years ago where we went to just a city an hour away. My parents watched the kids, again, just Emery and Verity at that point.
Mhm.
And the goal of that one, again, was mainly, I would say this one was mainly spiritual, where
Really?
yes, because remember, we did a half day of prayer again. We talked through, especially like spiritual disciplines, how
That's
things
fair.
were going, what, we were going to pursue out of that season moving forward. And I would say another one of that one was just like relaxation.
That's what I was gonna say.
Yeah.
Not to say I don't remember the spiritual component, but that was, I don't know if you remember, but we went at the very beginning of the year, and that was the start of my reading year. When I first went from, I basically had done no recreational reading in years, to I had the goal of reading 52 books, and I just remember sitting in the bathtub reading books that whole trip, because
Yep.
we got a really nice hotel with credit card rewards.
Yep.
And got room service, because only if we got room service we could use our credit card
Rewards
rewards
to cover it.
So we were ordering steaks to the room, which
Yeah.
felt so bougie, not even walking down to get it, because it had to be room service to
Yeah.
count for
The
our credit card.
steakhouse was in the hotel, but
Yeah.
if you went to the steakhouse, it would be charged as a
'Cause
steakhouse.
yeah, it would be coded as restaurant versus hotel.
If you got it to your room as room service, it would be coded to as your hotel expense.
And we have a venture card where it's
Yeah.
travel things. Anyway, that's how you can play the system. I would say that's how we pay for.
Yes, all of our marriage retreats have been paid
Mhm.
for by credit card rewards.
Yeah.
this is not a credit card advertisement at all, but
No,
just
I'm not actually promoting credit cards, but if you're gonna be responsible with it, you may as well get the points with it.
yeah. So that was the purpose of that one. And then the one we most recently went on a month ago, it was just 2 hours away. My parents watched the kids. And the purpose of this, what I would say the main purposes of it were connection, relaxation, and reflection, where we wanted to,
Sounds like you have notes in front of you.
I don't,
I would say rest, to put it
yeah,
simply.
but
I
that's
feel
what I'm
like we
saying.
just kept talking.
Relaxation,
Yeah,
rest.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
what I meant.
We just going into it, like, we just want it to be restful
Yes.
because we've been in just a very crazy, I mean, all
Yeah.
of parenthood and stuff is busy, but, like, it's just been an especially wild time, and we're like, we just need to unplug for a
Yes,
little bit.
and that was a big one, was to focus on rest, but then also another big component of it was reflection. Like, we wanted to do the kids' journals and
True. Their
that.
baby books from the last 6 years that we haven't filled in.
Yeah, but
We brought them.
we brought them and we filled them out and all of that kind of stuff. So the main purpose was rest and reflection with
Yeah.
that.
And it was so great.
It was. And so I think that you can have a variety of whys, but what I would encourage you is that a marriage retreat, you could just think, okay, just book a travel, make it fun, all that kind
Yeah.
of stuff, but establish the purpose of why you're going on. And maybe it's like, hey, we don't go on adventures together, so we want this to be adventurous and we want to experience new things and try new foods or we want to go
Yeah.
skydiving, whatever it is.
Oh my gosh.
We want to pursue fun together. That's the purpose of this trip.
Yeah, if you find, I would say something that, like, get a pulse check or a temperature check on when you're doing your weekly marriage meetings. Like, what is continually coming up? Like, you're just continually tired. You're continually feeling like you're disconnected. You're continually feeling like you need more fun. Like, whatever keeps
Yeah.
coming up, like, that should be the purpose of your marriage retreat.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
And so I guess we'd just say be intentional with it. Don't just
Yeah.
book a trip and just like, oh, it'll be fun. And,
Mhm.
and then all of a sudden it's done. And it's like, oh man, yeah, that was good. But, we just weren't intentional with it. So I would just encourage you, be intentional with what is the purpose of it? Why are you doing it? And then orient all your decisions around the trip
Yeah.
to really reflect the purpose and the goal of it.
It kind of reminds me, we talk about having a family mission statement, and all of your decisions are filtered through that
Yeah.
and your core values. And it's like, well, have a mission statement for your retreat. And then,
Yeah. It doesn't need to be that
it's not
deep.
stuff. Oh, I'm
but
not saying actually write it out. It's just
Yeah.
kind of like have it. And then when you're deciding on things, like, does this align with it?
Yep.
Does that, you're deciding whether to budget for eating out versus, like, trying to go a little cheaper and get groceries. Well, was your goal to be completely relaxed, or was your goal like fun? It's
Yeah,
whatever.
exactly. Like for us, it was, I remember when we were budgeting for this one, it was, hey, rest was our option. So rest was our keyword. We weren't cooking anything in.
Yeah,
We were
we ate
eating
out.
out for everything.
Yeah.
And, but maybe another trip, if it's centered around fun, hey, we want to try cooking something fun together. We're going to get groceries. That'll be a little bit cheaper, not do as much eating out. But then I don't know why skydiving keeps coming to mind, but we're going to go skydiving, or
that
we're going to
was a
go
design.
scuba diving, or we're going to do
Gosh.
whatever.
Yeah.
We're going to save money on food and we're going to pursue these experiences together instead. And so
Sure.
whatever your keyword is, whatever your purpose of it, orient your decisions for the trip around that, what the goal is.
Yeah. I would say regardless of even if your goal is just to have adventure and fun, it would be really beneficial to have some aspect of, okay, take advantage of this time where, if you have kids, where you're uninterrupted by kids.
Yep.
If you don't have kids, you're uninterrupted by the stress of your inbox and work and school and all of those types of things. And have conversations about where do we want to be in a year? What do we want to focus on for the next year? Where do we want to be? Am I jumping ahead?
Yeah.
Okay. Like, where do we want to be in 3 years? 1, 3, and 5 years are the ones that come to my mind.
Yes.
Of 5-year, obviously, you're not getting into the nitty gritty, but I think it's important to look at where do we aspire to be in 5 years? Is our trajectory accurately aligned in order to get there? What needs to change? Because, yeah, if you don't have those conversations, it goes to everything we talk about on a daily, weekly rhythm basis on this podcast. But if you're not making those intentional decisions, you're going to drift into the path of least resistance. And you may never end up exactly where you want it to be. So, yeah, I think having those conversations, I'm trying to think of what else would be really beneficial.
No, it's just in my mind, I was going from, okay, we just talked about the why. Now we're going to talk about the what.
Sorry, yeah, we're doing all the W's. Okay. I mean, so what is it?
Like, what is a marriage retreat? What would you say?
Okay, I mean, I'll simplify it to an intentional set aside time because it could be a weekend. That's what it's always been for us, like a
Yep.
long weekend. It could be a week. It also, if you, again, talking to you don't have childcare or it's just not in the cards, whatever it is, you're not going out of town. It could be a whole week that you're still home,
Yeah.
but you have planned where every single day after work is set aside time to not be doing chores, like maybe you're like doing takeout every single night that week because you want to like make each night special and you have a different theme or activity for each night of the week and you're having these conversations and that's how you're setting aside
Yeah.
that time.
It's like you're being intentional after the kids go to bed. Or maybe
Yeah.
it's you don't have, you don't trust a sitter overnight, but you're able to get a sitter during the day. And so you take work off on Friday and you do kind of day, I don't want to say trips, but essentially where you spend the
Yeah.
day Friday, Saturday, Sunday, intentionally connecting with one another, doing things. And then
Like
you
day
come,
dates,
yeah,
basically.
exactly. And then you come back at dinner time and you're with the kids, maybe the finances, you have the childcare, but you don't have the finances. So
Mm-hmm.
you send the kids to grandparents' house or
Mm-hmm.
family friend or whoever it may be. And it's a staycation where you
Yeah.
just don't have the kids in the house and you're able to
I've
pursue connection and
said that before that I
intimacy.
would do that. Of
Yeah.
just like, I love being home. I don't need to go anywhere. But there is something about not having your own laundry looking at
Yes.
you and those kind of things.
So that's the what. There's so many different things of what it can be. For us, the three examples, they've all been within driving distance. One was a
Yeah.
5-hour drive when your sister came up.
Hmm.
The other two were a 1-hour drive and a 2-hour drive, respectively.
That's true. Yeah.
And it still felt like we were getting away, but because, we're not spending money on flights, we got pretty cheap, relatively cheap hotels. We actually both hotels were paid for with credit card rewards, or all three stays were
Airbnbs.
paid,
Yeah.
Airbnbs or hotel. One time it was a hotel, two times it was an Airbnb.
Right.
We always paid for our lodging with credit card rewards. And then I think another component of the what is to establish a budget.
Yeah.
Because, okay, what is our budget for the trip? Because then that gives you the freedom of, we find a cool coffee shop or we find a cool dinner place or we find a cool thing to do and we want to try it. Oh, yeah, we have the budget for it and we don't need to worry about it.
Yeah. I think saving with that
With that in mind.
I'm just saying like with the idea of having a budget. So planning this ahead of time. So now as we're recording this, it's March. Maybe your goal is to go on one at the end of the year to kind of like cast vision for the next year. Well, you've got the next 9
Yeah.
months to set aside a little bit each month. And that it can just, I think that intentionality piece will pay off to not just throw it together.
Yeah, and just for total transparency, so for the most recent one, our lodging was paid for by credit card rewards, and then we had a budget. I took
I
off
don't
early
even
on
know
a
what it was.
Friday, and then we had all day Friday, all day Saturday, Sunday morning, and then we came home Sunday, and our total budget for the entire trip was $600.
Even with the
excluding-
massages?
Yep, even with the massages. And
Wow.
so, dinners, all that kind of stuff. So we got out that first night, we went out to a supper club, and then
Guess where we live based on that statement.
yeah, Wisconsin. But we went to a supper club and then we came back. And then the next morning, we went to a coffee shop for breakfast and then we got massages.
Such a good coffee shop. We went there twice.
Yeah, we got massages and then
Mhm.
we went out and we did a supper club that night. And then the next
Mhm.
morning, we went back to the coffee shop
And then we headed home.
and then we headed home, and we were able
It
to
was
keep
so
it to
relaxing.
$600.
Like I think we took a nap one day.
Yeah, Saturday.
I don't even remember, but it was just great. Like it just felt so good. And there was a bath. My thing is bath. We don't have a bath at our house.
Yeah.
And anytime we travel, I'm like, please get a bath because I'm such a bath person.
Yeah, so that was like the whole thing about I wanted to find a reasonably priced Airbnb that had a bathtub in it.
Mm-hmm.
That was
And it
the
was
whole,
so weird, like so weirdly decorated.
yeah.
But it had a nice bathroom.
And it was very relaxing. It helped us meet, if the whole purpose was rest, it helped us meet that. And so when it comes to what, it doesn't have to look like that. You can fly. Like we've already addressed all of it. You can fly somewhere new. You can stay home. You can drive somewhere. There's so many different ways that it can look. Don't
Yeah,
fit
if you
it
have like
into
a family
box.
friend with a lake, like whatever it is, obviously get creative.
And I would even say even if you don't have relatives in town, do you have someone enough that you could trust to watch your kids
I
that
propose you do a swap.
Yeah, that's what I was just gonna say.
Look
You
at
take it away. Yeah,
us.
take it away.
Well, I'm just thinking you've got close family friends from church, and they have 3 kids, you have 3 kids. Okay, so are you proposing overnight?
Yeah.
I mean, I know sleepovers are rightfully a big thing in
Mhm.
society these days, and a lot of people are very hard-nosed on them, but if it's like I'm talking
If
like
you
you've got
fully trust them,
you've
yeah.
got your close, like, these people are in the will if we are
Yeah,
to die.
I would say we've got multiple friends that we
Yeah,
trust
it's
enough
like
to
they're
let our
on the
kids
very
sleep
short
over.
list of when they're older and can do sleepovers, they're allowed to go there type of thing. Usually the other parents that are really hesitant about sleepovers are the ones that become your safe list. You know, like if they're also alarmed by it,
Mhm.
then you know that they're going to be very good stewards of who's in their home when there's a sleepover going on and those kind of things. Anyway, the point is swap with those families. So you keep their kids for a weekend, and then a few months later, they keep your kids for the weekend, and now the kids probably will think it's amazing. It's way better than just mom and dad going out of town and being with a sitter, just maybe even, I mean, depending on family childcare, whatever. If it's a novelty to go to their friend's
Yeah.
house for the weekend, that could be the way to go. Yeah, so get creative. I mean, I think the point of this episode is more like what to do when you're on your marriage retreat than how to
Yeah.
facilitate you getting there, but just get some ideas rolling.
Okay. So we would say the why, the what, the
How
how.
we've done the how. We've
Yeah.
really hashed out the how.
We've really hashed out the how.
Who you and your spouse. I'm trying to look through thoughts I had written down, but um I would say I think we talked about this, but having the budget is important because in the past we've also our honeymoon,
Our
for
honeymoon.
example.
Honeymoon was an example of how not to do a honeymoon.
And it wasn't. We are still privileged to be able to say that
Yes.
that was the bad because it was still a trip and we got a
Yeah.
cabin and all those things, but we didn't really splurge on our wedding either. We just basically like were trying to budget our honeymoon, like make it really cheap. And so we did the whole, like he said, the groceries, and it was like, go ahead.
I would say it's less about the budget and more so we didn't establish what the purpose was. You know what I'm saying?
No, it was the budget.
Well, we're telling people to have a budget for their marriage retreat.
No, okay. I'm saying like it was that we set the budget. I'm trying to say it's worth it, I think, to save to have it not be something where it's like super stingy.
See, I would be the opposite in the sense
Interesting.
of if you're trying to do something for a week and it's super stingy, do something for 3 days or do something
That's
for
fair.
2
So
days.
do whatever it is where it's like you can actually, it feels different than like normal life.
Yeah, but I would go back to I just don't think we planned our honeymoon well enough where
That's fair, maybe.
I think that it was less so the budget constraints and more so the fact that we just didn't plan out the purpose of it, the why of it, what we were going to do, all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I'm
Because
just specifically thinking like the whole we didn't have the budget for eating out, and so we went to one restaurant and like ate the leftovers for a few meals, and then we had
went to
like
2
dried
restaurants.
chicken. Yeah, that's true. Anyway, it just wasn't the same feel. I would have rather done a shorter and had like
Yeah.
more fun things.
Or not splurged on the cabin and
Yeah.
done food instead. It just goes back to I don't think we really had intentionally planned out our honeymoon well enough. That's what
Which
I
makes
go back
sense
to.
because it was our first trip, obviously, ever
Yeah.
going alone together, and we didn't know like what we value. Like we were
Yeah.
also kids. We were
Yeah.
21 years old. Like, yeah.
Mhm.
So I think I was just gonna go like, don't go too stingy because it's more. Again, we've gone through we've had all different kinds of budgets on these trips. Sorry,
Yeah.
but I think it is more fun when you can kind of relax and not have to think about
Yeah,
those
but
things.
you don't have to relaxation doesn't have to mean $100 dinner.
Oh,
Relaxation
no,
can
it
mean,
doesn't mean
again,
that to me.
you're doing a staycation and your kids are with family members or whoever, and then you are going out to a nice coffee shop and getting coffee and just
Yeah.
chilling and talking for 2 hours at a coffee shop,
For sure.
you
That's
know?
fair.
And so that's where I'm like, I wanna make this accessible for everyone who's listening where even it's like, "Oh, man, I don't know how we're gonna be able to spend $600." Well, maybe set aside $100 where you can go
And if
to
we
a
hadn't gotten these overpriced massages that we didn't even really enjoy that much, it would have been like, what, 300?
Oh, yeah. It
That
would've
was
been
like
I think
$300 of it.
Yeah, it was $300 of
And we
it.
walked away from it like, okay,
Yeah,
I'm glad
'cause
we did it. It was fun to be like in the same room as you because it was a couples massage, but we're like, could have done without, won't do again. It was just
Yeah.
like, okay, my back still hurts.
One
Like,
of the dinners was 100, the other dinner was 60. The coffee breakfast was $40 each, you
Got some
know,
Mexican
so
street
240.
tacos.
Mexican street tacos was $20, you know, so that
Yeah,
was, I
pretty
think we're
much.
at
And
260 right there.
that was like all of our expenses
Yep.
because, like we said, we used credit card rewards for the lodging. So,
Mhm.
anyway, I think to draw it back in of why is this important, it's that it all comes back down to intentionality and casting vision, which is
Yeah.
also tied into the intentionality piece. The whole premise of One Degree is your thriving marriages don't happen by accident. If you don't
Mm.
set aside time and intention, like set aside, I don't know, maybe set aside is not the word I'm going for, but if you don't explicitly outline what your target is, you're going to drift into whatever your schedule says, whatever culture says, whatever the path of least resistance in your very chaotic, busy life, wherever that takes you. And so that's the point. It's to have this intentional time drawn away to reorient, to make sure your ship or your plane, whichever
Yeah.
one you like better, is pointed in the trajectory that you want it to go. And if not, to make those shifts and to talk about, okay, so our spiritual direction it's not where, like, if we continue on this path for the next 5 years, that's not where
Yeah.
we want to be. What do we need to do? Like, have those practical conversations of, like, what habits do we need to put in place? What do we need to adjust on a daily, weekly, monthly basis now in order to be where we want to be? And if that's okay, we've pulled ourselves out of our house. Our house is driving us crazy. We feel like it's always a mess. We feel like it's overwhelming. We need to get rid of stuff. Like, have that conversation when you're removed from it. Okay, so
Yeah.
what steps when we get back home? What steps are we going to take?
Yep.
Or parenting. Parenting's hard. Discipline. We're not on the same page with this. Let's talk about right now. Like, what are we going to read a book together? Are we going to start doing this? Are we gonna, like, what are we going to do when we get, I think just removing yourself and then having these conversations when you're like unplugged from the stressors, that is how you can be the most clear-minded and intentional. And so that's the purpose of these.
Yeah, and I think I would add too that and you might be saying, how are we going to do this? Or when are we going to do this? We're so busy. I would think that if your boss was like, hey, we have a work trip and we want you to go on it, you would do everything in your power to make that work. Or, if you were, money wise, I think $500 is 6 months of YouTube TV, canceling TV, or we spend that money in so many other ways of
I was even going to
instead.
think, like, something goes out on your car, you figure it out.
Yeah, you figure it out.
Like a little more essential than YouTube TV. But yes, the
But
YouTube
I'm
TV
just
is a good
saying,
example of,
where it's like, over time, the amount of money we spend on things just adds up so quickly, and so cutting things out so that you can save, because
Mhm.
the most important earthly relationship that you can invest in is your marriage, but we don't treat it like that oftentimes. We often treat it like, oh, this is the back burner. This is what gets the leftovers after work, after kids, after everything else.
Yeah.
Hopefully, if we have anything left over, then we'll invest it into our marriage, when in reality, if it truly is the most important earthly relationship that we will ever have, that means we should invest in it. And that doesn't mean that, you need to go on lavish trips. We've already talked about it. It's more so the intentionality and the time that you are carving out in order to be together.
Yeah, your time's your greatest commodity, far more than
Yeah.
any money. And yeah, I think that we can sometimes subconsciously have this attitude of like, well, they're always going to be there. Like,
Yep.
which is true. If you are committed to your lifelong covenant, they will always be there. But that doesn't mean that we don't keep our marriage and the health of our marriage at the forefront of our not only minds but actions. And so, yeah, I think we've kind of said it from every different
Yeah, from
angle,
every
all the
different
different things.
angle.
But hopefully, the best thing that could come from you listening to this episode is you are at least inspired to try to make it happen for your
Yeah.
marriage, to bring up the conversation with your spouse of like, hey, how can we make this happen in the next 12 months?
Mhm.
Obviously, we have no skin in the game whether you do it or not. As far as like, it's not like we have a
Yeah.
marriage retreat
Book
for
your
you to come.
marriage retreat on the Sippy's, the
Right,
1 Degree
it's
Marriage.
Right. That'd be fun. And we've talked about that before of like, wouldn't it be so fun to do something like that? But that's not the point. We don't even have that in the pipeline. This isn't like priming you to come join our marriage retreat. Go wherever you want. We just think it would be very beneficial because we've seen how it served our marriage.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that would be our 1 Degree shift, is start planning out your marriage retreat.
Yeah.
of, make that a part of your weekly meetings of talking about what will it
Yeah.
take to make this a reality? What do we need to do for childcare? What do we need to do for savings wise? What do we need to do for XYZ in order to make this a reality?
And if you have gone on a marriage retreat, because I know some of you listening have in the
Yeah.
last few years, I would love for you to, I'd say DM us, but we still don't have Instagram if you've been following that saga. Email us or whatever. Find us, send a carrier pigeon and tell us, like what have been the highlights of that, or what are things that you would recommend for other people to do, and
Yeah.
things you've learned, like kind of do what we just did of like what went well, what didn't go well, that kind of thing. Maybe we'll share it on a future episode just to keep people in the loop. So anyway, we will catch you next week, One Degree fam. Thanks for being here.
Love you, 1 Degree fam.
Thanks for tuning in for this episode of the 1 Degree Podcast. Make sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode. And we'd be so appreciative if you take just a few seconds to leave a rating and a quick review. We love to hear your feedback, and those ratings really do help make it easier for others to find this podcast.
And if you want to continue this chat or share your takeaways, we'd love to hear from you. Head on over to our Instagram at the 1 Degree Podcast and leave a comment or send us a DM. We can't wait to hear from you. Catch you next week, 1 Degree fam.